And the award-winning author Mitch Albom joining us now. Mitch, congratulations on The Stranger in the Lifeboat debuting at #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. Before we get into the plot, why do you think this message has so resonated with audiences today?
Well, at its core, The Stranger in the Lifeboat is a story about asking for help. And I imagine over the course of the last 2 years, we've probably done more asking for help than we have in the last 20 years with everything that's going on in the pandemic, our economy and all that. And I think that's probably why people are embracing it. It's an upbeat book at the end. It's about healing, and we probably all could use a little bit of that.
For our viewers that don't know that story, tell us why you found yourself in a time of need.
Well, for those who don't know, so in addition to my writing and things, I operate an orphanage in Haiti that I have since the 2010 earthquake, and I'm there every month, and we have 53 children who we raise there, just amazing kids. And one of those children, a number of years ago, named Chica, developed a brain tumor when she was 5 years old, and we brought her to America, and we basically adopted her as our daughter, and we toured around the world trying to find a cure for her. And she lived 2 years, which was about a year and a half longer than they gave her. But she died in the end, and we were very upset, obviously. My wife is a person of faith, and she was able to go to her faith very quickly and comfort her. I took the opposite tack, and I said there can't be any good in the universe or any God in the universe who would take a 7-year-old. I mean, how can you be benevolent and not be benevolent to a 7-year-old orphan from Haiti who survived the earthquake on the 3rd day of her life, and lost her mother 2 years later, and somehow now you have to give her a brain tumor. But as time passed and the years passed, I began to look at it differently because I say, otherwise you're going to be angry all the time. And I can best sort of describe my attitude towards it on something that actually I wrote in the book when one of the characters confronts this guy who says he's God. And by the way, I don't say he's God, and you don't have to read the book to see if he is or isn't or what. I'm just saying he says he is.
People this past year and a half have lost loved ones. They've lost jobs. What did you learn through that experience and through Have Faith Haiti that everyone in this country that's gone through something the last couple of years, and frankly we all have, that they can learn to get through these tough circumstances and to actually be for them?
Well, you mentioned Have Faith Haiti. I mean, one of the great advantages of operating an orphanage is that you never have to go very far to see people who have it worse than you do. And to see these 53 children, some of whom were left to die out in the woods by whoever gave birth to them, literally were found under a tree. Some of whom were left in malnutrition clinics in the hallways. Nobody came back for them for 2 years. They just lived in a hallway. To see these children whose total possessions can fit in a 12-inch by 12-inch cubby, and yet every night they sing prayers and songs and hymns of gratitude to God for what they have, and they have nothing. This is the second poorest country in the world. It's very hard to look at that and say, okay, well, but my problems are worse than theirs. It's quite the opposite. You say, my problems are easily solved compared to that. I was blessed with a mother and a father. I had a family home life. I had such advantages just even with that they're never going to have.
You were, in fact, in Haiti when a group of American and Canadian workers were kidnapped, and they still remain hostages today. One of 800 kidnappings this year. How can we help? What can be done? What needs to be done there in Haiti to make it a safer place for everyone?
Well, it's a big question, but the answer, in my view, my just humble one-person view as someone who's there every month for the last 12 years, the outside world needs to get involved. This is not something that Haiti can cure by itself. They're a crippled government, a crippled economy. They still don't know who killed their president, and it's months later. Can you imagine that in America? If, God forbid, our president was assassinated, and 6 months later we're still going, we still don't know who did it. The government is in disarray. The police have no power, and consequently the gangs run everything. And of those 800 people who have been kidnapped this year, while the headlines make it for the 17 American missionaries and Canadians who were there, and it was just tragic, and they were visiting an orphanage and run an orphanage. I know that story very well. But of the 800, only about 50 are actually outsiders. The other 750 are just average Haitians who are kidnapped literally right off the street. Can you imagine just going to work and getting out of your car and boom, someone comes up, puts a gun to your head, takes you off someplace, starts going through your phone, and starts calling people on your phone and saying, I have I have Dave, and if you want to see him again, give me $1 million. And if people go, $1 million? I don't have $1 million. They call back, give me $500,000. Give me $100,000. Give me $50,000. Give me $100. You know, they're telling people to sell the refrigerators that they have and give them the money that they get for the refrigerators. They're kidnapping poor people and holding them hostage, and so that nobody goes outside and nobody goes into certain areas of Port-au-Prince because you're just literally afraid for your life. Our kids at our orphanage have not been outside of our orphanage in nearly 2 years. Between COVID and kidnappings, we have not left, and we're only on a third of an acre, so it's not like there's a lot of room. They have not gone outside. Can you imagine if your child couldn't go outside for 2 years? It's no way to live. And so we need a presence from the UN or from America or something to come in there and help, because Haiti can't do it by itself.
Do you fear for your life when you're there, Mitch?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, you know, especially the trip from the airport to the orphanage, because there have been kidnappings along the way in those different places. We take a lot of precautions, great precautions, and I've been blessed to make some friends down there, and they have, you know, security and bodyguards and people like that who we can use. But I mean, you're never 100% safe. But I belong there. You know, I took on the responsibility of raising these children. We don't adopt our kids out. We raise them there, and they go to school there, and they live there, and they're nurtured and taken care of there until they're to college, which we take care of too. So I made the commitment, and I have to be there. But yeah, you're asking the question. I'm not going to lie to you. Sure, I'm afraid for me and for my wife and for all of us.
We're thankful that you have an interest and a passion for books. The book is The Stranger in the Lifeboat, debuting at #1 on the New York Times bestseller list, available in bookstores and on Amazon today. Great pleasure to talk with you, Mitch. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. I enjoyed it.
Fascinating interview there.